The 1970 Chevelle SS 454 is one of the most legendary muscle cars ever made, but its real story is even crazier than you think. These are the 10 shocking secrets about this icon that almost no one knows. Number 1, the Chevelle SS came standard with a 396. Whenever the discussion about the 1970s Chevelle SS takes place, everyone talks about the big, bold 454 cubic inch monster engine, but almost nobody knows the real secret hiding underneath. Well, the truth is it came standard with a 396. But here's the twist, the 396 wasn't really a 396. It was actually a 402 cubic inch V8. That's right, what you saw on the badge wasn't what was sitting under the hood. Crazy, right? Let's break it down. Back in 1970, Chevrolet built the Chevelle SS to be a true street warrior. Everyone wanted the big power, the loud growl, and the thrill of muscle. So when people ordered the Chevelle SS, they believed they were getting a 396 cubic inch engine because that's what it said right there on the fender badges. But wait a second. In reality, Chevy had bored out the engine block just a little bit. They added just 6 extra cubic inches, which bumped the engine up to 402, but they didn't bother changing the name. They kept calling it the 396. They left the badges the same, and no one said a word. Why would they do that? Well, the name 396 was famous. It had been part of the Supersport family for years. Changing it to 402 might have confused buyers or even made the car seem like something else entirely. So instead of updating everything, Chevy kept the label and just gave buyers a quiet upgrade. And here's the cool part. Even though it was secretly a 402, the performance was wild. The most powerful version of that 396 engine, called the L78, pushed out 375 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. That kind of strength could send the Chevelle from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.9 seconds. And the top speed? A screaming 140 miles per hour. Just think about that, all that power. And most people never knew it was a 402 the whole time. There were even 2 versions of this mystery motor. One version made 350 horsepower. The other, like we just said, hit 375. Either way, the base engine for the Chevelle SS in 1970 was not the famous 454. It was this sneaky 402. Still not convinced? Even Chevrolet's own paperwork kept calling it the 396. They stamped that name on the options list. They put it on the window sticker. They even printed it in the sales brochures. But under the hood, it was always a bored-out 402. That's the secret. Number 2, a new look for the Chevelle SS. Next up, the 1970 Chevelle 454 SS had a powerful secret hiding in plain sight. This time, it wasn't just what was under the hood that turned heads. It was the way the car looked that truly shocked people. For this model year, something big happened. The Chevelle has an all-new body design. This change was so bold and different that many fans believed it should have been counted as a brand new generation. But Chevy didn't call it that. Officially, it was still part of the second generation, which started in 1968 and ended in 1972. Still, the look was so new that it stood apart from everything before it. Here's what made the change so dramatic. The Chevelle has all-new sheet metal. This means the metal parts of the body were freshly designed. The shape of the car was now smooth and strong. People often call it the Coke bottle shape because the body is curved in the middle and flares out near the wheels, just like the shape of a soda bottle. It gave the car a muscular look, like it was flexing its arms. It was wide and low to the ground, giving it a strong, bold stance. But that was just the start. The front and rear parts of the Chevelle were also totally redesigned. The front end got a bold, sharp new face. One of the biggest visual changes was the headlights. This was the final year that the Chevelle came with 4 headlights. Many fans believe this gave the front of the car its best look ever. After this year, Chevy moved to just 2 headlights, changing the Chevelle's face forever. Now look at the back. Something special happened in here too. The taillights were moved and built into the chrome rear bumper. This wasn't just for style. Federal safety rules had changed. New laws said that cars needed bumpers that could take a 5-mile-per-hour crash without damage. So Chevy's engineers got clever. They didn't want to ruin the smooth look of the car. Instead, they hid the taillights inside the bumper. It was smart, clean, and still looked beautiful. This design helped keep the rear of the car sleek while also following the new safety rules. Every part of the 1970s Chevelle SS screamed style and muscle. Even though it was part of the second generation, its appearance made it look like something brand new. Most people wouldn't guess that this car shared much with the Chevelles made just 1 year earlier. That's how different it looked. This redesign gave the Chevelle 454 SS a stronger, more grown-up feel. It looked faster, it looked tougher, and it looked like it ruled the road. Even the size of the car played a part in its fresh look. The Chevelle SS had a length of 201.2 inches, a width of 75.3 inches, and a height of 53.2 inches. The wheelbase was 112 inches. These big measurements gave it a long, wide stance that made it look even more powerful. And it was not light either. The hardtop version had a curb weight of 3,369 pounds. The convertible was even heavier at 3,456 pounds. All of this made the 1970 Chevelle SS 454 stand out like never before. And the truth is, most people had no idea it was still part of the same generation. That bold new body fooled almost everyone. But now you know the secret. The 1970 Chevelle SS got a totally new look that changed everything. Number 3, the SS was a luxury package too. When most people think of the 1970 Chevelle SS, they picture a wild muscle machine built to tear up the streets and compete in the golden era of muscle cars. But here's the truth. This wasn't just about raw power. The 1970 Chevelle SS was actually a luxury car, designed with comfort, style, and a sense of elite class in mind, because Chevy didn't want their star car to be like the stripped-down Plymouth Roadrunner or the rough Ford Torino. Let's start with the inside. The SS came with bucket seats instead of a flat bench. This gave the driver and front passenger their own special space. The seats looked sharp and felt fancy. The car also had fine trim inside, with stylish finishes and polished accents. It didn't feel like a race car. It felt like something a successful person would drive home in after a big meeting or a night at the movies. Now look at the tools Chevy gave the driver. A tachometer came standard in the SS. That's a gauge that shows how fast the engine is turning. It's something race car drivers use, but Chevy added it to a street car. And the speedometer? It didn't stop at 120 like other cars. The SS had a 160 mile/hour speedometer. It looked serious. For drivers who like to push the pedal, this little detail felt like a wink from Chevy saying, go ahead, see what it can do. More features made the car feel even more advanced. The SS came with a brake failure warning light. If something went wrong with the brakes, the car would tell you. That kind of safety feature was not common in those days. Plus, every SS came with an AM/FM radio. Back then, most cars only had AM radio. So being able to flip over to FM for better sound and music made the SS feel a little more special. Then came the paint. And here's where the SS really showed off. Chevy offered 15 different standard paint colors for the 1970 Chevelle SS. These included classic white, Cortez silver, tuxedo black, astro blue, fathom blue, misty turquoise, forest green, autumn gold, and black cherry. These weren't boring colors. They were deep, rich, and full of personality. But that's not all. Beyond this, Chevy also added something brand new. Iconic racing stripes on the hood and trunk. These dual stripes screamed power and class at the same time. Some buyers could pick a no-stripe version, but very few did. The stripes looked too cool. They made the car look fast even when it was parked. This was not a car to hide in. Even more rare were the two-tone paint options. Chevy made 7 combinations where one color went on top and another went on the bottom. Most of these mixed blues, golds, and whites. These two-tone versions were super rare. Not many were made, and even fewer are seen today. For people who wanted something beyond the standard colors, Chevy also offered special order paints. Hugger Orange and Daytona Yellow were 2 bold picks that made the SS stand out even more. With so many colors and styles to choose from, no 2 SS cars had to look the same. It was a car that let people show off their taste, not just their speed. So while the Chevelle SS 454 had the power to blow past anything on the road, it also came dressed in class. From the inside seats to the outside stripes, it wasn't just a machine. It was a luxury muscle car that looked as good as it drove. Number 4, dawn of the Chevelle SS 4, 5 and 4. Now, this one is a shocking fact rather than an unknown secret. In 1970, something big happened at Chevrolet. A quiet rule was finally broken, and because of it, the world got one of the most powerful muscle cars ever made. That secret rule was banned by General Motors. For years, GM told all its car brands they could not use engines bigger than 400 cubic inches in their midsize cars. That meant cars like the Chevelle and Camaro had to stick with the smaller 396 engine, even while Ford and Dodge were using much bigger ones. It made Chevy fans feel left behind at the track and on the street. But everything changed in 1970. GM lifted the ban. Just like that, Chevrolet had no more chains holding it back. And they didn't waste any time. As soon as a rule was gone, they took their biggest and worst engine, the 454 cubic inch V8, and stuffed it into the Chevelle SS. This moment became the true dawn of the Chevelle SS 454. Now let's talk about that engine. It came in two versions. One was the LS5, which made 360 horsepower. That was strong, but the real star was the LS6. It made a wild 450 horsepower. That number was almost unheard of for a regular street car at the time. On top of that, both engines made 500 pound-feet of torque. That's the force that pushes a car forward, and the Chevelle SS 454 had plenty of it. Thanks to all that power, the Chevelle became a monster on the road. With the LS6 engine and a 4-speed manual transmission, it could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.4 seconds. That was faster than almost anything on the street. It could run a quarter mile in 13.4 seconds. Is it top speed? 134 miles per hour. Back then, that was lightning fast. Before the ban ended, Chevelles had no real answer to the Ford Torino or the Dodge Charger with their huge engines. But now the Chevelle SS 454 could take them head on. It could win. It could even smoke them off the line. It was Chevy's way of saying, we're back and we're not holding back anymore. But this new power came with a price. Insurance companies were shocked. The Chevelle SS 454 was so fast that some companies didn't even want to offer coverage. It was just too powerful. That made the car harder for everyday drivers to own. But for those lucky enough to get behind the wheel, it was worth every penny. The reason for the old engine ban goes deeper than most people think. GM once said it was about safety. But there's more to the story. In the early 1960s, the Attorney General of the United States warned GM about antitrust issues. GM was too big and too strong. They didn't want trouble, so they made their own rules to stay out of court. That meant no factory racing and no giant engines in their regular cars. The rule lasted for nearly a full decade. But by 1970, GM was ready to let loose. And the very first thing Chevy did, they gave the Chevelle the 454 cubic inch V8. That bold move gave the world the Chevelle SS 454, and the muscle car world would never be the same again. The dawn of the Chevelle SS 454 had arrived, with more power than anyone ever expected. Number 5, the 70 Chevelle SS is rare and rarer. You've probably heard 1,000 times that this car is rare, but have you ever heard of something rarer than rare? That's exactly what we're talking about here. While many muscle cars from that time were built in big numbers, the Chevelle SS 454 was not one of them. In total, Chevrolet made 442,046 Chevelles in 1970. That number includes everything: four-door sedans, wagons, El Caminos, and coupés. But only 62,372 of those were SS cars. That already makes the SS special. But let's look even closer. Out of all the SS cars, only 8,773 had the powerful 454 cubic inch engine. That's just a tiny slice, and it gets even smaller. That number likely includes El Caminos too, not just the Chevelle Sport Coupe. So the true number of Chevelle 454 coupes is probably much less. Over 50 years later, many of those cars have been wrecked, crushed, or left to rust away. That's one big reason the SS 454 is so rare now. Here's something else that adds to the mystery. Chevy was never great at keeping detailed records during that time. They didn't break things down very clearly by trim level or body style. That means it's hard to know how many real SS 454 coupes still exist. The ones we see today could be real, or they could be tribute builds. That unknown history makes every true SS 454 even more valuable. Another reason the car is rare is the LS6 upgrade. The SS 454 came in two versions, As I mentioned before, one had the LS5 engine and the other had the even stronger LS6. The LS5 was solid, but the LS6 was the legend. Still, only 4,298 SS cars had the LS5, and even fewer, just 4,475, were built with the LS6. Together, these made up all 8,773 SS 454s. However, split between coupes, convertibles, and El Caminos, the number of each body type becomes even smaller. The LS6 was also an expensive upgrade at the time. While the full Chevelle SS 454 cost less than $4,000, somewhere between $3,486 and $3,991. That was big money back then. Many people didn't want to spend that much. Adjusted for today's prices, that's over $31,000. For a car in 1970, that was far above average. Because of the high cost, many people picked smaller engines or skipped the SS package altogether. And that made every LS6 Chevelle that did get built more special. Buyers who wanted both style and power and had the money got the full SS 454 with the LS6 upgrade. But not many could afford it, and that helped keep the numbers low. Paint choices added even more rarity. Buyers had 15 standard paint colors to pick from, which are already being said. There were also a few special order colors like Hugger Orange or Daytona Yellow. Some cars even had rare two-tone paint, with combinations like Autumn Gold and Classic White. But not all colors were ordered equally. Some were far less common than others. Finding a real SS 454 in an unusual color today is almost like winning the car lottery. Another detail that adds to the rarity is hidden in documents. A report from the American Manufacturers Association in October of 1969 listed only 3 versions of the SS 454 with the LS6 engine: the coupe, the convertible, and the El Camino. The coupe held 5 people, had a wheelbase of 112 inches, and weighed 3,999 pounds. Those specs help prove a real LS6 car. But because Chevrolet didn't always keep clear paperwork, spotting a true one today takes sharp eyes and solid proof. Number 6, the 70 Chevelle SS is a movie star. Like Paul Walker and Tom Cruise, the 1970 Chevelle SS is a true movie star. Most people think of Dom Toretto's black Dodge Charger when they talk about Fast and Furious. But few remember the red Chevelle SS 454 that Dom drove across 4 different movies. This bold, fire-breathing machine had its own spotlight and helped tell the story just as much as the actors did. At the very end of The Fast and the Furious, after Brian lets Dom go, Dom is seen in Baja, Mexico, behind the wheel of a red 1970s Chevelle SS 454. It's loud, low, and proud. Vin Diesel skipped the next 2 movies, but when he returned to Fast and Furious, so did the Chevelle. Dom drives the same car back to Los Angeles to attend Letty's funeral. Then, for a special street race, he paints the car gray. Later, in an action-packed scene, he uses it to take down the bad guys, but the car is completely destroyed. Here's the fun part. It comes back. In The Fate of the Furious, the Chevelle is fully restored and red again. In Fast X, Dom is seen teaching his son how to be a mechanic using the Chevelle SS 454. The car is gray again, and it's still part of the family. Since Fast X is a 2-part movie, fans hope the Chevelle will roll out one more time. That's the kind of spotlight few muscle cars ever get. But the Chevelle SS doesn't just shine in Fast and Furious. It made a big impression on other famous films too. In the movie Dazed and Confused, Matthew McConaughey's character Wooderson drives a real 1970s Chevelle SS 454. The movie is set in 1976, but the car is still a beast. We know the exact engine too. It's the LS5. In one scene, Wooderson brags that the car makes 390 horsepower. Since the LS6 made 450 and the regular LS5 made 360, that means he added 30 horsepower with upgrades. The car looked perfect throughout the whole movie and never got scratched. Jump to Jack Reacher from 2012, and we see Tom Cruise behind the wheel of a red Chevelle SS. He steals the car after being framed for murder and leads the cops on a wild chase. The Chevelle has black stripes and a 4-speed manual transmission. Even though the badging is hard to see during the chase, most fans believe it's a real SS 396. 9 Chevelles were used to film the scenes, but only 3 survived. Some say Cruise bought one of them himself after filming. And then there's John Wick, Chapter 2. Keanu Reeves gets into a deep green Chevelle SS 396 with white stripes. It was a gift from the Continental Hotel, but like everything John Wick drives, the car takes a beating. Even though he didn't drive it much in the first movie, by the second one, it was already a part of his growing legend. Fans knew the Chevelle was going to get wrecked, but it was still thrilling to watch. From car chases to emotional moments, the 1970 Chevelle SS steals the screen. Number 7, not all 70 Chevelle SS cars are real. Not all 70 Chevelle SS cars are real, so don't be fooled. Now you might be wondering, what does that mean? Exactly, this is one more secret about this legend. Let's find out how. Many Chevelle fans dream of owning an SS, especially the powerful 454 model. But with so few made and so many copies around, it's easy to get tricked. The truth is, lots of people have taken regular Chevelles and dressed them up to look like the real thing. Here's where it all started. From 1966 to 1968, the Chevelle SS was its own model. But starting in 1969, it became a special option called a performance package. That means the vehicle identification number, or VIN, no longer tells you if the car was truly an SS. So in 1970, someone could buy a regular Chevelle, add some badges and stripes, and make it look like a real SS, even if it wasn't. That's where the problem begins. Real SS cars are rare. So when a red-hot Chevelle SS 454 goes up for sale, people line up. But how can anyone tell if it's real or fake? Let's look at the clues. First off, a true Chevelle SS should have the right parts. Matching numbers on the engine and transmission are very important. That means the engine that's in the car now is the same one it came with from the factory. Another good clue is the firewall, the part behind the engine. It had special holes and shapes for SS-only parts. Then there's the 12-bolt rear end. This piece helped handle the power of the 454 engine. If a car has a 10-bolt rear end, it might not be a real SS. The RPO F41 suspension and the RPO M440 automatic transmission were both part of the SS packages. But here's the tricky part. Anyone can add those parts later. They can be pulled from junkyards, bought online, or swapped in. That's why checking these parts helps, but it's not proof by itself. And what about the VIN or the tag under the hood? Sadly, they won't say SS unless the car was built in one special place, Oshawa, Canada. That was the only factory where the CAL tag included the SS code. Some cars built in Kansas City, Missouri showed an L on the tag to mark them as SS models. But even that wasn't always true. Some real SS cars had no L at all. Now let's talk about paperwork. The best proof is the original build sheet or Protecto plate warranty card. These papers tell you exactly how the car was built when it left the factory. But most cars today don't have these anymore. If they're gone, buyers must rely on the physical signs instead. The sad truth is that fake SS cars are everywhere. Badges, decals, and even engines can be swapped in to fool people. That's why bringing an expert is always smart. Someone who knows Chevelles can check everything, from the frame to the floor pan, to see if the SS parts were there from the start. Number 8, the 1970 Chevelle SS is way expensive. The 1970 Chevelle SS is now one of the most expensive muscle cars in the world. The shocking part for you is that it is beyond your imagination an expensive classic. Over time, these cars have become harder to find and way more valuable. Let's start with the basics. In fair condition, a Chevelle SS 396 from 1970 is worth around $67,000, according to Haggerty. But for one in perfect show-quality shape, it can go all the way up to $122,000. Now, if it's the big one, the SS 454 LS6, it's a whole different level. In 2024, one in poor shape could still cost around $83,900. A perfect one? Try $220,000. That's a huge price jump for a 54-year-old car. But just wait, that's not even the highest they've sold for. Some of the most jaw-dropping sales happened at auctions. In recent years, SS 454 LS6 convertibles have sold for $572,000, $550,000, and $528,000. Even hardtop coupes have reached $440,000. These prices are from the past few years, with the latest big sale happening in May of 2024. The biggest surprise came way back in 2006. A very special SS454 LS6 convertible was sold for $1,242,000 at a Barrett-Jackson auction. This wasn't just any car. It was Ray Allen's famous NHRA champion drag racer. The car only had 61 original miles on it because it was built to race, not cruise. That kind of history adds big value. Today, Classic.com says that across all trims, the average sale price of a 1970 Chevelle is $97,918. The lowest recent sale was $18,700. The highest? That massive $572,000 car. And now more people are paying six-figure prices than ever before. Even cars in bad shape are still worth money. One rare hardtop was found sitting in Kentucky. It had been forgotten for years. The paint was faded, the engine was gone, and the interior was mostly empty. But guess what? It was still a real SS454 LS6. That alone made it valuable. Even with rust, missing parts, and no engine, it could still be restored and entered into the LS6 registry. The LS6 was only sold in 1970. Chevy made 4,475 of them. That includes hardtops, convertibles, and even El Caminos. Today, fewer than 350 of those cars are listed in the LS6 registry. Some were crushed, others just disappeared. That makes the ones left even more special and more expensive. In 2025, 9 LS6 Chevelles have already sold for more than $250,000. The most expensive hardtop was $440,000, sold in January of 2023. Convertibles are even rarer and can bring over $500,000. The record sale this year was $600,000, set in May of 2024. Number 9. The 70 SS454 is king of the muscle cars. Chevy built a machine, Chevelle SS454, which was so powerful that it earned a royal nickname. People started calling it the king of the muscle cars. Here's why it was so special. Before this, Chevy had a problem. General Motors wouldn't let them put big engines in their mid-size cars. So even though Chevy made great cars, they didn't win many street races. That rule finally ended in 1970, and Chevy wasted no time. They dropped in their biggest engine ever, the 454 cubic inch LS6 V8. It made 450 horsepower and could roar down a quarter-mile track in just 13.4 seconds. That was crazy fast back then. Next up, let's compare. The Dodge Super Bee, Dodge Charger RT, and Plymouth Roadrunner all had 426 Hemi engines. Each one made 425 horsepower. The Ford Torino Cobra had a 429 Cobra jet engine with 370 horsepower. That car needed 14.4 seconds to finish the quarter mile. But the Chevelle, it beat them all with its blazing 13-second run. Even the famous Plymouth Hemi Cuda and Dodge Challenger were only a tiny bit faster, just 0.3 of a second quicker. But when it came to regular production, Chevys, nothing had ever hit the 13-second mark before. The Chevelle SS454 LS6 was the very first. Now think about this. Cars back then were heavy. The Chevelle weighed over 3,900 pounds, and still it took off like a rocket. The secret was the engine's strength. It didn't just make big horsepower. It also made 500 pound-feet of torque. That meant it could launch hard and keep pulling strong even at high speeds. In those days, winning races was all about bragging rights. The best car wasn't just fast, it had to be the fastest. Drivers called it running in the 13s, and that's what made a car a true street king. And for Chevy, the Chevelle SS454 LS6 was their champion. At long last, they had a muscle car that could go head-to-head with the best Mopars and even beat them. That's how the 1970 Chevelle SS454 became the king. Not just in stories, but in real numbers, speed, and street power. Number 10, the 70 Chevelle SS lives on. Finally, the legend of the 1970 Chevelle SS has come back to life. After more than 50 years, the muscle car that once ruled the streets is roaring again. A company called Trans Am Worldwide, based in Florida, has created a modern version called the Chevelle 70/SS. It looks old school, but comes packed with new power and technology. Let's start with what makes it special. The Chevelle 70 SS has the look of the original, with rally stripes, bold colors, and a long hood that screams muscle. But now it's built with carbon fiber to make it strong and light. The new body sits on a modern Camaro frame and has better brakes, strong suspension, and rear-wheel drive. This is not just a custom project. Trans Am Worldwide is making as many as people want to buy. Now here's where it gets exciting. The base model comes with a 378 cubic inch V8 engine. That gives you 450 horsepower, just like the original LS6 from 1970. But if that's not enough, you can get it supercharged with a 2,600 Magnuson supercharger, pushing it up to 675 horsepower. Need even more? Then check out the 3 trims. First is the base 70 SS. Next is the 396 Heritage model. It honors the SS 396 but with more power. It comes with a 396 V8, making 800 horsepower with the supercharger, or 900 if you go twin turbo. But the top of the line is the 454 LS6X Limited Edition. This one comes with a massive 454 cubic inch V8 engine. You can choose between 3 wild setups. One has a supercharger that gives you 900 horsepower. One has twin turbos for 1,000 horsepower. The most powerful version uses twin 6870 precision turbos to make an unbelievable 1,500 horsepower. Only 25 of these LS6X limited editions will be made, so they're very rare. Each trim can be picked in 20 different colors with different wheels, hard top or soft top, and either automatic or manual transmission. Even with all this power, the car stays cool and classic. The design brings back the old Chevelle style with a modern twist. Big front wheels, wider rear wheels, sloped trunk, low roof, and sharp lines give it a mean look. Even the hood, doors, and bumpers are made of carbon fiber to keep it light and fast. And there you have it, the shocking secrets about the 1970 Chevelle SS 454 that most people never hear about. If you learned something new, hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite fact, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping car stories.